I have been observing that C programming is one of the popular programming languages which we use in many areas like embedded systems, IoT, medical domain, aeronautics, and many more. You know why? What would the reason? The increasing popularity of C is probably due to many desirable qualities that the C supports. It is a robust language which has a rich set of built-in functions and operators and library. Maybe that is one advantage where we can write any complex programs like an application program, system program, things like that. The C compiler combination of capability of assembly language with enabling like a high level language features. This is the most powerful and then most widely used programming language which keeps me always motivating to learn as a first programming language. So this is an essential for all computer programming folks should start learning C programming. Hello, how are you all? Welcome to Maths Bridge. We shall continue our C programming learning journey. We train, you can learn. Without further delay, let's get started today's topic. Folks, please do visit us at our YouTube channel Maths Bridge. I'm sure I think you are already subscribed to the channel. If you have not, please do subscribe the channel and then support us. Thank you and then happy learning. Here is our today's agenda. What is mean by constants? Constants are referred to a fixed values. Constants cannot be altered during its execution of a program. Constants also known as a literals. You have a data types like an integer, float, char, string, and so on, right? Similarly, you can have a constants. Constants can be integer constants, floating constants, a char constants, and string constants. Constants we can also call it as a literal, okay, string literal. So we have a concept called a enum, enumeration in C, which is also kind of a constant. So there are the enumeration constants in C program. Make a note. Constants are treated just like a regular variables. There is no real difference if you look at that way. However, constants are not modified after definition done. Alright. Let me put a question like this. What is the difference between constants and variables? Constant is a fixed value that remains unchanged throughout the problem context or a program context. So once we define that value never going to change. It is not let you change also. That's an idea. Whereas a variable is a placeholder that can take any value. Right, during the program you can change. Right, you can it is a modifiable. So if you look at a constant, the constant variable are the value that cannot be changed once defined during the execution of the program. For instance, pi equal to 3.14, right? You can define these in two ways. One way is like as definition. This like a one. Other way, you have any variable that you can declare, but keep a keyword called constant. It is also nothing but a constant, a declaration versus a definition. Okay, so as defined and constant variables are the two ways that we can define constants in C programming language. Okay, we'll look at the variable. In case of variable is an associated with some of the memory locations to hold the data value, right? Data can be changed during the execution of the program. We require the two cases, right? One, we don't want to modify the value which we define. The other cases like you still can have a multiple modifications. These two features that the C supports. That's why understanding concept of constants and variable is an essential for us. Let's look at this sample program. Tell me what we are doing here. That's correct. What we are trying to do, we are trying to actually calculate the area of the circle. We know area of the circle depends upon radius of the circle, right? If the r radius varies, that area of circle will also vary, right? What is the formula? Formula is like a pi r square. R is a variable, pi is a constant, correct? So means then the question is how you gonna define the pi value. So pi value can be defined in two ways. One of the way that we can define is using as defined pi 3.142. What this means is, let's see. This is whenever you see a hash, right? This is called a pound symbol. This is called as a preprocessor, command. What that means, like during the compilation process, prior to the compiler, there is a one more stage called a preprocessor stage. Preprocessor try to look at all the preprocessor related commands and then look for the program, how many times that the definitions are appears. If it sees, then it will replace with the value that you defined, something similar. Look at now in the program how many times you can see pi within the main. So I could see pi in line number 12 where I'm printing the value, and I could also see line number 12 where I'm calculating the area of the circle, right? These are the two. So preprocessor stage, it will recognize these two and replace these two with the actual value. This is done prior to compilation, right? That's a small note that I captured. You could see preprocessor command that begins with a pound or hash is known as a directives. Hash defined as a preprocessor command or a directive. A semicolon is not required at the end of the statement if begins with hash. Do you see this? Every statement actually end with a semicolon, but preprocessor line it does not require a semicolon. Got it? So C preprocessor is a program that executed before source code is compiled. Very nicely, right? Every time the preprocessor sees the pi value in this context, it will replace it with value 3.14. You got that? And if you could actually compile this code and run it, this is what the output we get it. So we have a 3 printf statements, and hence on console you could see 3 statements: radius of circle, pi value, area of circle. Do you see now how constants can be defined using a macro, or also known as as defined directives? This is a good concept. Case number 2, where we can use C variables as a constant, but there is a special declaration for it. Okay, let's look at line number 5. We have a variable called a float variable, data type defined as a float, and keyword you see as a prefix is a constant float, the variable name equal to 3.1428. This is not a like a line number 4. This is not a like a directive statement. This is not a preprocessor statement. Okay, it is a normal data type variable, and hence you require a semicolon. This is a statement. Whenever you see a constant, or when you try to declare a constant variable, you make sure you assign the value during the declaration, because once you declare, you cannot assign any value to it. So that is a one important restriction that you have to remember. When you define a constant, it is means that like it is a read-only memory. You cannot modify this variable at all. In normally what happens, right? Variables means like a modifiable, right? Variables whose value cannot be modified is known as a constant variables. That's what we have to say. Constant variable should be initialized at the time of declaration. That's what we were saying here, right? It won't allow you to reassign the value to it once after initialization done. A constant declaration creates a immutable reference to value. It does not mean that value it holds is immutable, just that variable identifier cannot be reassigned. Constant variables are read only. Remember, read only, read write, Read only means like you can only read but you cannot modify. Got it? A constant is a named data item which is a predefined value. All right. So I have the same example problem. Instead of pi, now I'm using like a value. Line number 13, I'm using like a, the pi value as a variable name, and during the calculation, and in line number 15 you can see pi value is a constant variable that I'm using to calculate the pi r square value. So I could see when you compile the code and just run it, you see the output, the console having a three printf messages, because I'm using three printf statements in my program. So both ways I could actually compute. One where I can define a as defined, second one is like a constant variables. Variables can be a float, char, integer, string, right? These are all data types can be considered, can be declared as a constant based out of your need. Do you see the difference now? What is variable? What is a constant? What ways that constants can be defined in C programming? Constant variables cannot be modified. What that means? Constant variables are read only, and hence once you initialize the variable, then you cannot modify further. That is what it says. So what that means is, when you do not want others to change the existing variable value, then highly recommended that use a constant as a keyword for that variable name. And hence in line number 5 what we said is that constant float variable name equal to the value that it got initialized during the declaration. That's a requirement. Let's prove that like these variables are not going to be modified, will not allow us to modify. So if I would actually try to change the value of the constant variable at line number 16, you see the red mark, this means like a compiler is throwing an error. So I tried compile this code, and then the error message that I got it this much. So at line number 16 I see assignment of read only variable is not allowed. That's what I get it. So it does make sense to me stating that yes, constant variables cannot be modified once after it gets initialized, right? Only place where during the declaration, if you are initializing the variable, is the only place it is allowing me to put something in it. After that, all you have to do is like just read only. You can read the value of it, but you cannot modify it. That's a beautiful, right? But we needed such a feature for your software programming practices while writing a complex programs. Constant variables must be initialized during the declaration itself. What that means is, if you look at a line number 5, right? Constant float variable. I declared a constant variable, right? The minute you declared a constant, it is not let you initialize even the value. How do you prove? So what I was doing is like I was trying to initialize variable like any other variable, right, in a main program at line number 12. So what compiler throws me error stating that, boss, this is an assignment operator, you cannot modify. At 11 line number 12 you see assignment of read only variable is not allowed. It's an error that you got it. This proves me that constant variables must be initialized at the time of declaration, during the declaration. Okay, these are the 4 takeaways. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, click on bell icon and leave the comments. Happy learning. Thank you. Stay tuned to upcoming sessions.